Well, many thanks indeed for joining us for today's webinar, Your Guide to Entering the RoSPA Awards. I'm Karen McDonnell, Head of Workplace and Fleet Safety Policy at RoSPA, and I'd like to kick off this webinar by introducing you to my colleague, Matt Cryer, RoSPA's Awards Standards Manager. Matt's role features oversight of the awards assessment and judging processes, including the coordination of approximately 40 assessors and judging panel members. Matt also looks after the ongoing development of the question sets and categories that make up the RoSPA Awards portfolio. So Matt's now going to provide you with all the need-to-know information you require for the RoSPA Awards. And if you have any questions during Matt's presentation, please do submit them using the chat box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we'll pick your questions up during the Q&A session at the end. So I'm now going to hand over to Matt.
That's great. Thank you for that welcome, Karen. And just a welcome to all of you who are joined with us today on the webinar, whether you're looking at the awards for the first time this year and you're here for a bit more information, or whether you're a well-seasoned entrant and you're looking for a few final tips. Hopefully there'll be a little bit of something for everybody in what we're going to cover today. Next slide, please, Kate. So first of all, what are the RoSPA Awards? Well, we continue to be one of the most prestigious and recognised schemes in the world, and particularly within the health and safety world. So fantastically, we're going into what will be the 66th year of presenting health and safety awards in 2022. Last year, the 2021 scheme just gone, we saw nearly 2,000 entrants, and doing a few sums, we've worked out that that counts for around 7 million employees and stakeholders covered by those individual entrants, and they've come from last year 49 different countries. So the scheme is far from just being a UK scheme now, it's really continuing to grow internationally. Next slide, please, Kate. So, what do the RoSPA Awards mean to you? Well, it's a chance for you to join with this international community of organisations who are committed to performing really well in their health and safety management. It's also a chance for you to think about how you can use that high performance in health and safety as a reason to celebrate. And you can really celebrate the things that have gone well during 2021, which has been, again, a difficult year for many of us, but there's been a lot of good stuff going on as well that we can reflect on. It's also a great way to show that commitment, to your employees, to your customers, and to various other stakeholders who are in your sphere of influence. And it's a way that you can really engage with all of those people to help set yourself apart from your competitors as someone who is committed and passionate to doing safety well and to doing it right. Next slide, please, Kate. So as you come to the awards, as we say, whether you're doing this for the very first time or whether you're a returning entrant, there's a few expectations that we would kind of encourage you to have. This isn't just a tick box exercise. It's not just an entry form that you need to kind of complete with some facts, but we really encourage this to be a chance for you to reflect and learn on what you're doing as an organisation with your health and safety management. And we feel that if you take the time to do that, rather than, just like we say, treating this as a tick box exercise, it will help you extract much more value out of the process. It's a chance for you, to think, what have you done well in the last year? What have you improved on? What might you want to improve for next year? So entrants typically kind of feedback to us that it takes them in the region of maybe 3 to 5 days to reflectively complete an achievement award in this way. If you're registering now, we've still got time for you to be able to take the time to do that, either as an individual or collectively as a team. So you can still do it that way, but we do encourage, if you do have the opportunity, you can enter and register earlier on in the process as well, whether that's next year, for example, to be able to spread that work out. A high performing industry sector contender may take a bit longer than this, of course, but it can be an intensive process, but a manageable one if you do it all in one go, or we can spread that workload over a number of different weeks. Next one, please, Kate. So one of the key things that we've felt has always set the RoSPA Awards apart from other industry schemes is a strong focus on the evidence that you use to demonstrate the things you're talking about. So you need to take that time to reflect and to gather that evidence together by involving the rest of your team to get their input. This is also an expectation that you want to tell your story well, and by that we will require that evidence to be gathered as part of that process to kind of really bring your entry to life and to prove to us that you're doing these things you're talking about. Next one, please. So just to recap on what the entry categories are open for the 2022 scheme. Now, all of these categories, including the competitive categories, are still available for registration this year up until January the 24th. So the main, most popular award is the Achievement Award, and this is a merit-based award that answers or looks at 10 key questions about different aspects of your health and safety management. There's a couple of specialist versions of this, so one that focuses more on your fleet and vehicle management, and one that focuses on organisations that have got more of a risk profile around guests and members of the public, for example, hotels, theme parks, those kind of places. But the main Achievement Award is a general, all-encompassing health and safety management category. The Industry Sector Award kind of goes a step on from that for those who are really looking to try and prove themselves as best within their particular industry area. So that award gets marked competitively alongside all the other people who are in your same industry category. But you need not worry if you don't get one of those top awards in that sector. You'll still receive a graded level of achievement award, and we'll talk a little bit more about those grades on the next screen. We also have a number of free-to-enter specialist awards that are available to anybody who's already entered an achievement or an industry sector award. This year, you can add those on by requesting them via email following your registration, and there's still opportunities to add those at this point, even if you've not already done so. So the next slide, please, Kate. So when you hear others talking about the levels they've achieved in the Achievement Awards particularly, we go through a level from merit through to gold, and this reflects many different stages and levels of progress in health and safety. So the Merit Award at the bottom end is an opportunity for those who are just kind of starting out with a fresh commitment to health and safety, right up to gold, which is those who are consistently going above and beyond compliance. You might also hear various different awards mentioned, such as Gold Medal, President's Order of Distinction. Now, these are all still just essentially gold achievement awards, but these are sustained achievement award levels that are given to organisations who have been entering and received gold for a number of consecutive years. Next one, please. These are the range of different categories that we've got open for the industry sector categories that you can compete against your peers in. We continue to kind of evolve and grow this list in response to kind of the market demand. So we've added a few relatively new ones this year, so you can see all of those, and hopefully you can find something that fits you as an organisation. Next one, please. So we've got these free-to-enter categories that we mentioned. These are our specialists, and a new one that we added, we'll talk about with Karen and myself, we'll talk about a little bit in a moment. We've got the Inspiring Women in Health and Safety Award, which is a new one for 2022. And this is going to be made to an individual who's made a significant inspirational impact in safety and well-being. Other existing awards which we're continuing to bring back this year, we've got the Health at Work Award, which requires a separate submission for the best management of occupational health in the workplace. We've got the Dillman Environmental Award, which looks again as a separate submission about the things you're doing in terms of environmental management and sustainability. Another key one, we've got the Safe at Work, Safe at Home trophy, which is quite close to RoSPA's heart as being something that recognises good work being done to keep your employees safe outside of the workplace as well as in it. And then we've got the Inspiration Awards, which are a separate category looking at those achievements made by individuals, teams, and special projects as well. So each of these requires a separate submission alongside your main submission. If we can have the next slide, please, Kate. We've also then got these specialist awards, which are auto-selected from information that's already in different parts of your submission. So these are all open primarily to the industry sector award applicants, but they allow us to give special recognition for those who are doing really well with workforce engagement, for example, those who are doing really well in the Scotland region, and those who are doing well internationally. And also we have open to both achievement and industry sector entrants, the Best New Entry Award for this year. So if you're doing the awards for the very first time, we do give recognition to the best performer who's been in the scheme for the first time. Next one, please. So just to really kind of update you on where we are in the entry journey for the moment. We can still purchase your registrations to the scheme right up until the 24th of January if you're looking to enter one of these competitive categories, or potentially, as we hope this year, be able to present your award in person at some point. Next one, please. Following on from that, you'll then receive your online entry login details by return, and we're turning these around very quickly at this stage. So if you were to register today, we would hopefully have them with you in a couple of days. Once you've got that, you can begin working on your submission. So just to confirm, for those of you who are already involved and who are already putting together your submissions, February the 1st is the deadline for the submissions for the achievement awards in this phase, and also for the competitive awards. So that's all those specialists we've just looked at, and also the industry sector category as well. Following on from that, we'll be intensively marking and reviewing all of the good work that you're all doing, with a view to and circulating results between the 21st and 31st of March. That's great, thank you. So a few top tips then, really, to think about how you can get the most out of your entry if you're still crafting it and still bringing it together. This point that we talked about earlier about reflecting and sharing, we really do feel this is a key aspect of getting the most value out of your submission. So we would encourage you to, to do that as much as possible. Involve the different members of your team to get their ideas and input as well. And don't forget, as an individual putting together the entry, if you're taking a lead on that, you can also make sure that you use that within your own personal CPD evidence to help keep your professional qualification requirements up to date. This is probably a fairly obvious one, but as you would do with any kind of exams and the like, really make sure that you're carefully reading the questions. Look at all the different aspects of the entry before you start to enter it. We do sometimes find that entrants can stray off on different themes that are maybe covered on different questions later on in the submission. So you may potentially end up using space on one question where you could have used it later on in the entry. So just make sure you'll find on each section that there's a section of suggested themes and topics that you can cover. Now they correspond very closely to the mark scheme, so try and use those as your lead for the kind of things we're looking for in each section on the submission. And also just make sure that you are working from the current year's guidance notes if you've entered the awards before and you're entering again this year. When you first log in, you'll find those notes in the bottom right hand corner of your screen, and they give you a more detailed breakdown than just the information you have on your screen. In many cases, they will answer some of the more detailed questions about how to report your accident information, for example, and what the different categories mean. So yeah, just make sure that you're doing that and you're working from the current notes. And then again, just really to mention this evidence point again, we really look for you to evidence your narrative as clearly as possible. So a really well described, clear submission on its own without evidence won't gain you a top mark. We really need to see that proof of how you're actively doing the things you're describing in practice. So a big part of the award is showing that your planning follows through to your implementation. And that's something we really want to be able to see. So for each point, really think, how can I show the assessor that we're doing this day to day, we're doing this well, that we're really following through on the planning. And again, you should have, you'll find it in the notes and on screen that you can use up to 8 items of evidence for each of your individual questions. You can also use evidence on sections such as the accident reporting sections to add more clarity to the figures that you've included. But if we think about those 10 questions, you've got potentially up to 80 different documents that you can use to really clearly show us what you're doing and how you're doing it well. So if you come to the end of your submission and you find you've got significantly less than that, they're all marks that you could potentially be leaving on the table, so to speak. So just review those questions before you submit to see if there's any further particularly worked evidence examples showing implementation that you could use. It's always worth you making sure you've got a worked example if possible, rather than just a process example or a blank form, because they don't necessarily show us the same level of detail. Next one, please. A few key themes then, just to think about. Inspiration, particularly in terms of how your organisation is inspiring its workforce and leading health and safety culture from the top of the organisation, is a particularly important aspect on the industry sector submissions. So this is one clear thing that helps show higher performers. So make sure you're thinking about that. Make sure you're also thinking about the consultation with your employees, how you're involved in a genuine two-way process to develop your processes. We often find that something that gets confused in the process is communication versus consultation. So we're looking to see how staff are involved in that feedback loop, rather than just leadership telling staff about policies. But we're looking to see how they're engaged in the ongoing development and continuous improvement process. Investigation, we really look to see where incidents have happened, and we know they do happen. How are you learning from them? How are you showing that you're making changes, and so on? So, I mean, we appreciate some industries it's harder to find investigations into a serious accident. So you can include things such as near misses as well when you're talking about investigation. That's something worth considering. The next section, please. Preparation. So this is key, obviously, as with anything we do. Just make sure if you have the opportunity as you go through the year to try and gather those documents in advance. Appreciate if you're coming to this now and you're just registering, we've maybe not got as much time to do that, but we're not looking to kind of trick you in terms of any of this documentation. It's not anything that you need to be putting specifically together. It's all really working documents from your everyday processes we're looking for, rather than things that are specifically prepared for the awards. Communication, again, this is key. It's important throughout, both in terms of how you're describing your systems and processes to us, and how you're treating communication internally as a thing within your organisation. And finally, I'm drawing this point lots of times about the documentation, but it really is probably the single most thing that would set you apart in terms of potentially being a silver award winner versus a gold award winner. We really need to see that thorough process documentation, that policy documentation, and that implementation documentation. And that is, that's the one thing that will really set apart the potential between a gold and a silver. That's great, thank you. So just to paint a bit of a picture as to what this looks like in practice, this is one of the questions from this year's submission, both on the achievement and the industry sector, which is asking how you approach active monitoring of health and safety. So what you might typically want to do is, when answering this question, you might want to set the scene to start off by looking at the policy and procedures that you've got in place. So you might want to include performance monitoring policy, for example. And then you would build on that by looking in a bit more detail at what the key aspects of that policy are, show how you're actually using that day to day. So you might have a schedule for what your plans are in terms of monitoring, what's going to happen and when. But then again, how can you show that those things have actually been completed as you've planned them? And then, include an example of a completed schedule showing, that these processes have taken place as intended, or maybe noting why they didn't take place if they didn't. Next one, please. So then we would look to unpack that a little bit further. What issues has that monitoring brought up? Have you found any non-compliances, for example? And then how has your system gone on to take remedial action in those areas? We can use all sorts of evidence in your submission. So you can use, generally speaking, all the classic Word document formats from Microsoft Office, spreadsheets, PowerPoint and the like. But you can also include things such as photographs as well. They can often be really helpful for showing things, particularly around areas of investigation and the like. Again, a key thing that we sometimes find is possibly overlooked by entrants in some sections is the health side of health and safety. So, for example, in this section, you would also want to be considering how you're doing active monitoring in relation to health issues. And then finally, how does monitoring of your performance evolve? How are you continuously improving it? So continuous improvement throughout the submission is a really key theme, particularly for industry sector level entrants when you're looking to differentiate yourself from the other high performers in your sector. That's great, thank you. So really just to add a few things on in terms of additional bits of added value if you're new to the scheme, we've got access to the Awards Excellence Forum, which this session itself is part of. So anybody who is a new or an existing entrant has access to that. It's an opportunity for you to connect with other similar entrants and to learn and get more advice throughout the year. And through that forum, we also help you access things such as the mentoring program. So we've got a number of award ambassadors and other entrants who are available to help you if you're doing this for the first time, also maybe to help you progress to another level within the scheme. Whilst we've not got a huge turnaround in terms of getting involved with that for this year, we still have the opportunity to link up with those members, those mentors rather, throughout the coming year. And also, if you're new to the process, we'd encourage you to consider feedback on an award submission if you're registering for the first time, because that will give you some really helpful pointers in terms of what you can do the following year to improve your submission and to refine it. So hopefully that's given us some pointers in terms of what's available this year and how you can get the most out of the process, either if you're new or returning. So next slide, please, Kate. So that's what I've got to say from now, but we've got a few points now to pick up and a few questions that have been rolling in. So Karen and I will do our best to answer those for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And they've definitely been rolling in, Matt. So I'm just going to start at the very beginning. And Pradeep, from the construction sector, how would you know if an achievement award was suitable for an organisation? Is there a checklist that he can access to undertake that assessment?
Yeah, absolutely. So Pradeep, if you have a look on our website, you can find an example list of the questions that the Achievement Award covers. RoSPA.com/awards, you'll find it there. But basically, as we recognise, the journey of your health and safety goes through those categories all the way from merit to those who are showing a commitment to making improvement, right through to those at the gold level who are going consistently above and beyond. And there's lots of different opportunities for you to identify with the different stages on that journey, and it shows you a good opportunity to progress through those grades as well. So being kind of a generalist occupational health and safety category, we'd say it's relevant for most organisations, regardless of your size or your industry area. And
there's a huge interest. Thanks very much, Matt. There's also huge interest in the last date for applications for the award. So I think it might be useful just to reflect on achievement versus the other awards. What will the deadlines be?
So we've got the published deadline out for you there, which is the 1st of February. We appreciate that some people may have had difficulties with illness or staff absence due to COVID and the like this year. We're in a bit of a different situation to where we were last year when we applied a formal extension to everybody. If you are having difficulty, we would just encourage you to drop an email to the awards team direct, and we'll deal with those kind of case by case. But in the non-competitive categories, there is sometimes an opportunity for us to be able to give you a slight extension on that.
Yeah, I think that answers absolutely, of paramount importance. Do get in touch if you need to discuss your particular situation, because we do look at individual submissions on their backstory and their merits. So please do get in touch. There is a query about a postal award closeout date. Is that for people who might still submit a postal entry?
Yeah, certainly. We appreciate we've changed the deadlines this year, partly out of kind of simplification, really. We realised that we had a lot of different staggered deadlines and prices last year. So to make it easy for everyone, we're working now towards this kind of single entry phase at the start of the year, with a view to hopefully being able to, like we said, celebrate and come together to present some awards properly again this year. And watch this space regarding that. You'll be updated as soon as we've got that information available. For those of you who are more used to entering in the second phase, there is still an opportunity to do that this year. Again, if you contact the awards team direct, we can give you the full details, but we would offer you the opportunity for a postal award that doesn't involve the opportunity to have a presentation, which can be entered until ultimately June the 8th in terms of the entry itself. And I think registration for that will be open until the 23rd of May. But just to let you know, we are progressing towards this earlier deadline, but we're doing it in a bit of a phased way this year.
Yeah, no, that's tremendous, because there have been a couple of questions about the delayed submission to June, So I think it's good that we've aired that this morning. In terms of awards suitable for voluntary work, home safety, and child accident prevention projects, where would that fit within the current awards hierarchy, Matt, please?
Sure. So voluntary work and things, particularly being done outside the home, there's a few different opportunities really. If it's kind of the work of your teams or individuals, there's opportunities for you to cover that within the Inspiration Awards categories, which are those categories that allow you to recognise the work of individuals and teams. There's also the Safe at Work, Safe at Home category, which considers a lot to do with how you're applying your workplace risk management thinking to keeping employees safe outside of the home and in the community. So I'd probably suggest if that's something you've got a key focus in, that would be an ideal extra specialist category to consider. So it helps you unpack that in a little bit more detail than the main occupational awards do.
Perfect. And here's someone who's forward planning, which is a great thing when it comes to the awards round.
Glad to see that.
I'm going to be running a project from April 2022. When should I submit an entry, as I won't have any documents and evidence of success till much later? So would you think that a project starting in April 2022 could be part of next year's awards round, Matt?
I think we typically require a minimum of kind of 6 months of evidence for an achievement award. April 2022 should just be kind of about okay, provided you've got some good evidence of kind of implementation and work going on. So 2022 will be the qualification period for the 2023 awards. It would probably be in good stead enough for the achievement category, but I think the industry sector categories would require a more detailed history of information.
Perfect. And here's another one for you. We provide support for a company that's also submitting an achievement award. Can we register on their behalf for a nominee for the Inspiring Women in Safety Award? We've been asked to help put forward a citation, or must the company register directly themselves?
It should ideally come directly from the contact who's made the main registration. I appreciate you maybe wanting to do that kind of on the quiet as a way to recognise someone's achievements possibly without them finding out beforehand. If you do make a registration for any of the inspiration categories or for the women in safety categories, we have a process where there's a nominee who is different from the nominator who actually makes that nomination. So you may want to liaise with the contact at the company that you're involved with. It would still be able for us to do that in a way that the nominee wasn't aware of the process until, if they were potentially successful, we would then obviously contact them.
Perfect. Can you use email feedback from someone who's been a witness to something we've done, which is perhaps otherwise difficult to evidence? For example, a collaborative working with stakeholders. So can you use email evidence?
Yeah, absolutely. The awards kind of interface online supports a wide range of different evidence formats. So something that shows, discussion, you can use email for various different things to demonstrate different aspects of your communication and your engagement. Ideally, again, they should be from the correct time frame. Or I appreciate if this is maybe a statement from somebody about something that's happened in the past, that would be okay to be from the current year, referencing something that's taken place. But yeah, consider lots of different formats for your evidence. It doesn't have to just be kind of, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Like we said, you can use images, and emails are a good way for being able to describe and demonstrate things that have taken place.
Perfect. And here's a question from someone who's in the training and automotive industry, but also runs a limited company. Can you advise which category to enter, please?
Sure. So training and automotive, the main achievement award category is kind of a good catch-all in terms of being a generalist category. So that would be suitable. If you were entering at industry sector level, we generally ask that you kind of choose the category that you most identify yourself with from the list of the different categories available. So we do have a training and education category, which would probably be ideal for that, I'd suggest, if that was something of interest to you.
Perfect. And if we submit an entry and are unsuccessful, do we get a breakdown of areas to improve on and why we scored as such, please?
Yeah, certainly. We could. What I would suggest is, if you are unsuccessful, we will generally contact any entrant that has been unsuccessful regarding the reasons for that, and be able to give you some kind of informal guidance on, whether there was a limiting factor, such as, for example, a significant accident that was still under investigation, or something similar to that, or whether it's a lack of evidence. We can give you some guidance and help on that for future years. And by all means as well, once you've registered, if you do have any questions about what you're putting together, whether it's sufficient or not, do just get in contact with our team. You've got the email address on the screen there, the awards@rospa.com, and someone will come back to you. Our phone lines are a little bit busy right now due to it being close to the submission, but if you do drop us an email, we will come back to you with any questions.
Yeah, I think it might be worthwhile highlighting here, Matt, the fact that, you put forward an entry and there's a scale of success, so people being completely unsuccessful is quite unusual, I would suggest, so there is the grading of the award. Do you want to just explain that to people who are listening in?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a fair point, Karen. Like we say, the kind of I'd say the lowest level, but the introductory level of award, maybe we would suggest is the merit level award. That is for those who are demonstrating, that they're making an effort to manage their safety in an appropriate way. That is a level which you still may be experiencing some accidents, but it's all to do with kind of demonstrating the maturity in terms of how you deal with those things as they happen. At that level, kind of, an accident wouldn't preclude you from getting a certain level, from getting an introductory award. As I say, we then progress through these different levels as you're progressing with your standard of management, and the standard of management you can clearly evidence to us, right up to the gold level, which is, we say, those who are not just compliant, but those who are able to demonstrate clearly that they're going beyond compliance in a number of different areas.
That's perfect. Thanks very much. I think that's really important for those people who are considering entering for the first time. So a couple of final questions here. How do you go forward and apply? What guidance would you give? If someone's listening today and they want to apply today, what would be the best first step for them to take?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think first, reflect on the questions that you can see available as examples on the website. So if you go to rospa.com/awards, click on that achievement award category, you can find, we've got some quite detailed guides on there on the website now in terms of helping you put together an entry and what further things on what your expectations should be in doing so. We've got a list of those questions. If you feel like you can have a good shot at answering those questions, and again, you've got some documentation and evidence that you can pull together to demonstrate that to us. It's just a question, as we say, of making the registration, which just takes a few minutes to do. And once you've made that registration, you'll get your login, and then you've got a bit more time to put together the actual entry itself.
Perfect. And the final question from the participants this morning: what category would be a good fit for data centres and for a first-time entry, and what is the deadline for putting in a first-time entry, just to reconfirm that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a first-time entry, if you want to be involved in any particular presentation event, we've got registration up until the 24th of January. And then submission by the 1st of February. So between those two dates, even if you register at the end, you should just have enough time to bring the documentation together. As we mentioned, if there is still opportunity later on in the year, so contact the team. We'll be doing that this year at least anyway. In terms of the different categories, I wouldn't get too hung up on the industry sector if you're looking to enter for an achievement award, because it doesn't actually have a direct bearing on your results for that level. It's only really the industry sector award category, where it will, the category you choose within that will directly then impact, you know, the industry area that you're competing in. But if you're just looking to register for a achievement award, the mark scheme and the way we mark it is identical irrespective of which category that you're in. So
absolutely perfect. Thanks very much indeed. Well, that's us. We've exhausted all the questions, which is fabulous. I think we should just bring this to a close now, and I'm hopeful that the amount of energy we've had in the questions that have been asked in the way of responding to them really encourages more people to join the RoSPA Awards community. It definitely demonstrates that you value your people. Our people are here to support you to get your entry right. So please do get in touch, and we're here to support you moving forward. So thank you very much indeed for your attention today.
thanks very much. Take care.